That is today's podcast. Now I got to go somewhere and find some way to calm down.
You're listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, where HIPAA and humor collide to make learning fun. Your delightful hosts are Donna Grindle and David Sims. Relax. HIPAA help is on the way.
Welcome to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast. My name is David Sims of HIPAA for MSPs and Security First IT. And joining me, as always, is Donna Grindle of Carden. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, David. How are you?
I'm good. Technically, it's 5 minutes past afternoon, so
Hey.
we'll move past that.
Yeah, people don't understand how many things you and I can go down rabbit holes on.
It's rough.
Significant others especially. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So speaking of trying not to do rabbit holes, we're going to speed up the intro.
Don't try.
Get away from a little bit of the banter here and there. But so where are you going to be coming up in April?
Yep, that's the one we got booked right now as the OMS Administrator National Conference in Savannah, Georgia. Cool. April 7th through the 10th, and we're working on some other stuff, but that's one where they're like, look, we'll figure it out. You just be there. Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. And then we have the big boot camp news.
Yeah. So before April, we actually have a boot camp happening.
Yes.
And we went out on a limb and scheduled 2 boot camps. So, far be it from us to actually have a plan too far out, but we did. So the first one, the first boot camp is going to be in March 20, 21, and 22. 3 days.
Yes, we've made changes to the format based on the feedback we have gotten from our attendees. So the good news is we didn't just make the crap up. We took the advice from other people. And we're doing it. But session number 2, if you can't make it in March, because everybody always says, ooh, I can't come in March. When's the next one? The next one is May 15th, 16th, and 17th. And if you're interested in coming to the boot camp, that gives you 2 well thought out dates in advance. Yeah, finally we did it.
There you go.
And
put it in the budget.
I know, get the budget, get the plan, get it on the books. And then session number 3, because we try to do 3 a year at least. And the virtual one we can't decide about, but the in-person ones are really well received, and we feel like they give you the best bang for your buck. So the third one is somewhere and sometime after Labor Day. And if you are interested in us coming out towards the West Coast and you're willing to commit to coming to one on a certain day, give us a call or send an email and say, what's up? Tell me. Come closer to me. Come to me.
Yep.
All right.
So we'd love to be so far west that it's called Waikiki. Just saying.
Yeah. If you're willing to go there, let us know, because, for the right price, we'll do anything.
Yeah. All righty. So that brings us to our topic for today, which is kind of interesting. We have some new cybersecurity agencies and offices, and so we kind of want to look at that and go, how does this apply to us? Does it apply to us? Should we be looking at it, care about it? So you're going to let us know all that today.
Yeah. Do we care?
Do we care?
I don't know.
Right now, I'll say no. You say yeah. Let's figure it out.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it depends. Some of it has some really promising information and promising help for managing cybersecurity requirements. But there's 2 things going on. Stuff under HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services, which is what we always worry about. And then there's stuff under DHS, Department of Homeland Security. And they, work with everybody on managing these kind of things. So we're gonna review several of these different announcements, because there were several in a row, and talk about what that means. So let's talk about HHS first, because it's where, things go with us. And back in June, and we've probably touched on this a little along the way, because there was some snarky stuff that went on. But Congress sent a very stern notice. It was this very stern letter to HHS about what they considered some cybersecurity failures in the reports, because now all the departments have to send a cybersecurity report into Congress for review. And they were kind of like, we're not really seeing what we're supposed to see from you.
Yeah.
Is essentially what the letter said. And you need to, tighten your belt and put on some suspenders and let us know how you're going to do this. And interestingly enough, in the time we live in, it is often exciting to see that the letter was a bipartisan letter coming from the Democrats and the Republicans and the Senate and the Congress. So it was the House Energy and Commerce Committee and the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. Everybody signed on to this letter saying, hey, we've been waiting too long for stuff from you, HHS. You need to give us what you promised.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, political drama and stuff going on, which, we don't normally cover it, but, it's almost like the Kardashians version. There's so much drama and people being moved, and there's a lot of back and forth. But, I'll give you a link so you can learn some of that. But the stuff's getting real now because they've played around long enough. As they say, it's getting real.
Up in here.
Up in here. So here's the some of the excerpts from the letter that Congress sent to HHS, and just bear with me a little bit. I'll pull out some nice little excerpts that it's interesting. So, as cyber threats to the healthcare sector increase in frequency and severity, it is imperative that HHS provide clear and consistent leadership and direction to the sector regarding cyber threats. Okay, I don't know how that could be more clear.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's imperative that you do your thing, because they have this thing called sector-specific agencies. So you have all of these different agencies are focused on an individual sector, and it's HHS versus, FTC goes across all the sectors.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they're saying, look, you're both the regulator of healthcare and the sector-specific agency, and you need to do both, and you need to do them in a way where you're going to communicate to your stakeholders, and everybody always uses that word, how you're going to balance that need to enforce the regulations, but also assist in these cybersecurity incidents and helping support the management of them. So that's kind of, they're saying, look, your report that you sent us that you're required to do, every year, all of the agency have to send a report. And they said your report omitted or lacked sufficient detail on many outstanding issues.
Oh.
Yeah. Your homework was bad.
I think I've got that actually put in my report card before.
No, it was insufficient. You lack sufficient effort. So they said, most notably, your report lacked information regarding the Healthcare, Cybersecurity, and Communications Integration Center, the HCCIC, which somebody, the person back in April 2017, at the time, HHS CISO said that they were building one just like the Homeland Security version, which is the National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center.
Yeah.
So Homeland Security has an NCCIC already, and they're saying, look, we're going to make one that's just focused on healthcare. And there was a ton of controversy. That's where all the drama started. And so everybody's like, okay, what is this thing going to do? And the person that made that announcement suddenly got moved to another job, and the person that was in charge of that got moved somewhere else. Chaos ensued.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. And it's over a year after this announcement. There's no clarity of what's going on with this. It's supposed to be sharing information according to the National Health Information Sharing and Analysis Center, because, we got all of that. But, other than the testimony, they don't know boo about what's going on with this thing because the report didn't mention it, yet it's out there floating around. And it says this was kind of that final stab kind of thing. Mm-hmm. HHS's decision to present to our committees a report that was outdated, incomplete, and inaccurate raises concerns about HHS's ability to address the growing number and severity of cyber threats facing the healthcare sector.
Ouch.
Boom.
Ouch.
Yeah, talk about the boss telling you ain't doing your job. That you're talking about a very critical employee review. But it's certainly clear that they're coming down on it. They're not, trying to make it, oh, we know you've been busy.
But I have a lot to do. I don't care.
I know, we don't care.
Well, you know what happens though? That spurs HHS to come out swinging because they got to prove something now.
Well, they also hit them with that 405D that we talked about.
Oh yeah.
There's stuff due in December, and I'm really looking forward to it. There's some other stuff coming out in December, which, we'll cover it as soon as it comes out. But that is the CISA, that whole, it's got all those funky names, but 405D, part of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Act and blah, blah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's under Department of Homeland Security, right?
Right. But it required HHS to establish a collaborative process with other government officials and healthcare industry stakeholders to align and publish healthcare industry security approaches. So that was signed into law in December 2015. But as of this writing, HHS still has not produced the, quote, common set of voluntary consensus-based and industry-led guidelines, best practices, methodologies, procedures, and processes required by the law.
That's a mouthful.
I know. But they were just like banging them. It's like you're telling us the same. It's outdated. You basically took last year's report, dressed it up a bit, and sent it in.
Now they know how we feel when we're doing all this paperwork. Really. You've got to do all this documentation. I don't have time.
No, what it is, wait, we were supposed to do this, and this, and we haven't done any of it. What are we going to do? Just dress it up a little bit and pretend. That's essentially.
Hand them that big old huge 3-ring binder in the corner and say, here.
Yeah, that always makes them feel better. So interestingly enough, this letter came out right, like the day right when Eric Decker, who we talked about before, he's a very informed, in the know dude. I wish we could get him on the David. There's another person you need to get on the podcast and get an interview with. That would be a cool thing.
Yeah, right after the hackers.
All right. So anyway, he testified before Congress, and he's at he's in Chicago, the University of Chicago, I want to say, or whatever medical center. But at any rate, he knows this stuff in and out, and he testified on behalf of the organization that he is the head of, and he's also the head of the committee that was supposed to do all of those guidelines and stuff. And that stuff, he said, look, by the end of 2018, he said December 2018, we're going to have this stuff come out. And it's very important stuff. But also in that, he proposed 4 actions that should be taken to improve cybersecurity in the healthcare sector. Number 1, encourage industry adoption of the NIST cybersecurity framework. Who would have thought?
Yeah. They've been preaching that for a while.
We've been preaching it. We make it very much a part of everything we do, is to try and integrate that into what we're doing, because we know that's where we're going.
Right. And there are other things even outside of HIPAA that we see that same framework come around more and more and more and more. So,
right. It doesn't matter what your industry is or anything. If you're integrating and utilizing that framework, you've got something to show you're trying to do what's right.
Yep.
Which is, that Ohio law that we talked about. And in that Ohio law, the NIST cybersecurity framework was one of the things that could help you be able to use the Ohio affirmative defense. There's a reason that's there. And, it's the one that you can get for free.
Yeah.
All right. Then there's bolster the importance of sharing technical cybersecurity threat intelligence through the NHISAC, which we just talked about, and ensure the information is protected from regulators. And that's that big thing about, I don't want the regulators to see the information I'm doing on threat sharing, because then they could use that against me. But if I use the threat sharing details I know, I might be exposing myself to regulation issues. So that's why they divide the two, and you're not supposed to be able to reference them. Offer enforcement release for organizations that demonstrate the adoption of the cybersecurity frameworks, the cybersecurity best practices, and they participate in NHISAC. So that there's a long list that you could maybe get a little enforcement, kind of like the Ohio thing. You might get a little break on the enforcement.
Yeah, we're the government. We're here to help.
You never know. Hey, I tell you, a lot of people down in the Mexico Beach in Southwest Georgia that are like, I need y'all to show up. Somebody. I mean, that's a sad spot down there. People just sitting in half a house having lunch while people stand there going, hey, how y'all doing? Establish a national response program in partnership with NHISAC and possibly DHS that can facilitate the industry response to a national cybersecurity threat. That relates to the WannaCry issue, because had WannaCry not been stopped in Britain before it got here, it would have likely shut down healthcare like it did in Britain.
Mm-hmm.
And the UK was shut down hard. So it is important to note that part of that, he suggested that cybersecurity management under HHS, this non-regulatory part of it,
right,
be moved over to the Office of the Assistant Secretary for Preparedness and Response, which is ASPR. I don't know. ASPR. And, that's taking place. So I'm just saying, they're listening to what the guy's saying. They hear what he's putting down. And it should be interesting to see what comes of that, because now, in the last couple of weeks, we have seen things happening. So the drama's playing out. Mm-hmm. Dun, 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 dun. So OIG, the Office of Inspector General, that monitors the internal departments of the federal government, and they, they're there to kind of make sure people are doing what they're supposed to be doing according to the law and budgetary and all that kind of stuff. So they're the auditors.
Yeah, not to be confused with the OMG.
Which is what you say when the OIG goes up. Yeah. So the OIG under HHS, which every department has one, OIG has formed a multidisciplinary cybersecurity team comprised of compromised.
Yeah, they're compromised by the auditors.
Ooh, yeah. See, comprised of auditors, evaluators, investigators, and attorneys focused on combating cybersecurity threats within HHS and the healthcare industry. So this whole team they have put together under the Office of Inspector General, under the Health and Human Services. So they're focusing on what are we seeing out there, what's being done under HHS. So the folks that are keeping an eye on thing and reporting how well they're doing, which, by the way, they just said all that wonderful guidance the FDA just released this year on medical device security, not enough, not good enough. So they say these things, and they have in the past complained about the state of help that HHS, and they have also complained about the lack of enforcement that HHS has done. So, they have been very clear that more needs to be done to protect healthcare information and to protect the ability of, from a national security standpoint. And I think that often gets overlooked, don't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think people realize that if we are in a crisis, everybody worries about what hospitals are doing, what doctors' offices are doing, where are the doctors, how can I get, if I can't get to a hospital, but I can get to a local doctor's office, are they going to be able to help me? And those kind of things. So I don't think people realize just how much that happens when things go horribly awry if you've never experienced it. And personally, I don't want any of us to, but I would really like for people that could save lives or patch things up, or patch people up, or any of those things to be there to do it. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's a big thing that they are. So then HHS had its paper cuts from being whacked upside the head by that letter so many ways. Can't you see all those paper cuts? Yeah. And now we're going to put Purell on it.
Oh, gosh.
There's nothing worse. So anyway, they decided, well, we better do something. So the drama's still out there about that other HCCIC thing. But basically, what they said is we're going to do another cybersecurity thing, and it's going to be called the Health Sector Cybersecurity Coordination Center. Now, the best news was they're calling it HC3.
Oh, good.
Hallelujah. Something we can say.
Not the HSCCC.
Yeah, where you can't keep up. But HC3 we can work with. So we will now pay attention because HC3 is something we can remember and look at. But the Health Sector Cybersecurity Coordination Center, here's the statement about what it is. Are you ready for this?
Drum roll, please.
An operational, so it's not fake, cybersecurity center, a location designed to support and improve the cyber defense of the healthcare and public health sector.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. HPH. That's healthcare. That's their sector. HC3 strengthens coordination and information sharing within the sector and cultivates cybersecurity resilience by providing timely and actionable cybersecurity intelligence to health organizations and developing strategic partnerships between those organizations.
Okay, so I just have one question. How?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is it going to do all this?
Exactly. And, if you search for that, you see all of the announcements with a cool little picture of them, with the giant scissors cutting a ribbon in front of a sign that says Health Sector Cybersecurity Coordination Center up on a wall. Now, what you don't know is that in front of that wall, there's like 3 chairs. and that's the center. I don't know. We haven't seen it, and they're very proud of it. And it's kind of like, look, Congress, we did this. So we see a big ribbon cutting. We see that it's open, but I haven't been able to nail down what we can actually do with that.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. I just, I'm sitting here going, I don't understand how they can even make that happen. Needs to happen, but
I think it's kind of like it's going to fall under the, the ASPR.
Yeah.
Where it falls under the assistance part, not the regulatory part. And that's what they're calling it. And they're putting it, this is that thing for threat sharing and coordination of defenses and all of that has nothing to do with regulation. It has to do with the intelligence we need to protect ourselves from cyber threats.
But that is assuming that there is intelligence out there.
Well, there's plenty. They're just not, it's like the general who testified before Congress. I saw this on, I'm weird. I watch C-SPAN, but I saw this general testifying before Congress about the Defense Department's work in cybersecurity, and he said, people that have the skills that we need can make so much money in the private sector. There's really only one reason that they stay, and it's because they're committed to what they're doing, and that's more important to them than money.
Mm-hmm.
And that says a lot, but we always say that about those that are serving in the military, that, we don't pay them worth crap, yet they're out there with people shooting at them.
Yep.
And so there is that problem. And his point was, look, if you want to have a Defense Department loaded up with these folks, you got to give me the money to do it, because they are expensive. This is not a battle you fight by throwing a whole bunch of teenagers on a beach somewhere with, rifles. It's not one you can do that way. And it's very expensive to get these folks. So how are they going to staff all of this stuff? You know what I'm saying?
I know. I think it offers more questions than it does answers.
I know. So, but the thing is that, we've got all this drama going on, and the drama's not over yet, because there's a lot of things going on, and it's a mess. But the bottom line is they are doing something. We just got to see if they actually go through with this like they are supposed to. And, Congress is kind of bearing down on them. But we should see some things coming out in December, and I would expect a lot of information coming out in the first quarter about what this stuff's going to do for us. Now, that's HHS, full of drama, full of insanity, a lot of politics being played at some levels that really impact our ability to secure things, which, we never like to see that. But then you get this cool stuff from DHS, and this was the announcement, and it came from a brand new law, another bipartisan thing. You look at that, how many times have you said, you mentioned it many times here on the podcast, that most of the things that have to do with this privacy and security stuff is always a bipartisan effort.
Yep.
It is not something that's going to be tossed in the wayside because of politics. There could be confusion on how it's implemented.
Who's going to stand up and say, we don't care about this?
I know,
mean, really?
It's like, you're literally being attacked on our shores, and people don't get that. They just don't get it. And there's so much that's happening at lower levels that are being used later somehow in nation state attacks. They don't get that either.
No. I mean, you've talked about this before, but we are definitely in a cyber war. It's not, it's coming, or it might happen one day. It's been happening. Yeah, it's there. And we're talking about the sheer level of attacks just from Russia, Ukraine, China, and North Korea. Just those. Don't even count the ones coming out of South America, because those are starting to grow. The ones where they're all unstable down there. So, yeah, it's happening. It's not getting better yet. We haven't reached the pinnacle of the problem. Which is why the Department of Homeland Security announced the new agency, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, called CISA. CISA? We're going to go with that. CISA. CISA. Not CIA. CISA.
Not CIA. CISA. Really? CISA. CISA. Flim. CISA is responsible for protecting the nation's critical infrastructure from both physical and cyber threats. So they are focused on the sheer infrastructure issues, whether it's the cybersecurity part or our ability to maintain things like, gas and electricity and transportation, and those kind of things are part of the physical infrastructure. And then emergency communications from, one end of the city to another is often hard in a crisis. Imagine you can't communicate anywhere in the United States. So that's their mission. They have already, DHS has already been doing a lot of stuff on cybersecurity initiatives. And HHS is supposed to be coordinate with them, but we don't see anywhere near the kind of things that DHS has for cybersecurity on their website. And I'm going to throw a lot of those links out there, but it has a program that they call, of course, it has to have a hashtag because, hello, 2018, we got to have a hashtag. Hashtag Be Cyber Smart, powered by DHS. I don't understand that. Powered by DHS. I think that's to let you know that it's coming from them so that they can get the credit for it. But yeah, everybody understands how that goes, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So they have a lot of stuff on that Cyber Smart campaign, with cute little sayings. And what was the one that we were enjoying? Well, no, we can't get as far as we did before, but there's things like you know what I'm talking about, multi-factor authentication. So it explains that. It explains Wi-Fi safety. And then there's oversharing and geotagging. Never click and tell.
Yeah.
And phishing, play hard to get with strangers. So they do some really cool stuff. Keep tabs on your app. Stay protected while connected.
Yeah, you have to get gimmicky that way. It makes it stand out in people's minds and they remember it.
Yeah, but they're doing a good job of that.
Yeah,
and they have a whole campaign that's going on that is keep your password practices polished and always click with caution.
Say that fast.
I know, really. Online safety can be hair today and gone tomorrow when you overshare. And there's a woman holding a rabbit hair today. But, the rabbit theme comes out. There's a rabbit coming out of a top hat. So, but, here's the woman in a lab coat in a data center. So we're not talking about, you're getting the point just by looking at the picture of, the lead in of these videos that are there. And, and it's things like, how strong is your cybersecurity protection? Considering posting that cute vacation selfie?
Oh, yeah. I love those.
No, really. And how strong is your password management? And she's got on a hard hat with some drills, with a drill in her hand there. Are your apps asking for too much access? And she's got an ice cream cone and sunglasses. And are your mobile settings leaving you vulnerable? And it looks like she's dressed up like a snowman. But, they've got some really good stuff that you can. This is freely available, people.
I know.
Go assign these things to your staff for training for cybersecurity awareness. And it's got common scams and all these kind of things. So it's fantastic stuff. And it even shows you how to report an incident if it's happened, because they need this information so that we can build intelligence, because, they need to know how it's spreading, where is it spreading, how many people are being hit by this. There's a lot that they need to know. So like I said, DHS already has a lot, and now they have this agency that it's their job. So there's a ton of links that we'll put out there for the DHS. They do have the National Cyber Incident Response Plan, which defines the incident response that we have to worry about, for the United States. We actually have one of those. There's privacy incident report assessments and stuff like that. So there is even, case studies and tons of information out there. So I'm going to, include a few of those to show, how much different stuff's there. Certainly there's way more, but just some interesting ones to me. So you can go to the website, check out all those links, and certainly go and watch what the DHS stuff is, because I think that they're going to be offering a lot of information and help. And we already have the things that the FTC are doing with Cybersecure My Business and Cybersecurity at Home. And we got the National Cybersecurity Awareness Campaign, which, no one knew about when I asked them about it. But hey, we're working on it. So I would expect, and we'll have to include this on one of our predictions for 2019 or educated guesses.
Yeah.
You know how nervous predictions make me.
Yeah, I think so too. This will definitely be something that'll be around and in the news a lot more.
Well, if they can get the threat sharing going and the large entities are sharing information, they get hit a certain amount, and we're going to know some details about what they're seeing. Like if they're under attack, like, I don't know, like your website gets under attack all of a sudden. You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm. I do.
It just happened the other day.
Yep.
So it's going to be interesting because I think they can help, but they've got to give you information that doesn't look like it was written by paperwork people. You know what I'm saying? Bureaucracy. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. But
you can actually use it.
But you brought up a good point earlier, which was, number one, people don't always know when to ask for help, but they are often scared to ask for help because that means you've told somebody you have a problem and it might come back to bite you.
And that has been a major discussion in every session that you go to that talks about threat sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not just the regulators you want to worry about. You don't want your competitors to know.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was just in a conference. It was an online recorded thing, but it was talking about the South Carolina insurance data protection law that come out, and they were stating that very thing, which is most of their complaints are coming from the competitors. And so this is going to be another area where the guy across the street doing the same work you're doing is going to say, hey, you're not doing this stuff right. So I'm going to file a complaint anonymously. And then, at least if nothing else, to, get you focused on something else instead of running your business.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely cases where, I have even seen where a company actually found PHI exposed by a competitor and then wrote a letter to everybody in the community saying, hey, so-and-so is exposing information. You need to switch to us.
Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
I mean, why would you? And they even gave everybody the link to go look at it.
Wow.
Okay. You're in big trouble. They're in trouble, but you're in big trouble. Let's just say that one might come back around to the news. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have my frustrations with some covered entities that, won't do anything to protect data. Won't name any names, but they're not clients, obviously.
Right.
But it's, you go in somewhere and that they're not doing anything to protect their patients at all. And the patients don't know. They're willing participants of a bad situation.
Yeah, patients assume this is going on, and it's really not. If you want to know, what you do is you go to the front desk and you say, "Can I talk to your privacy officer or your security officer?" And that person should know who that is and not turn around and start asking people. They should say, "Certainly." And be able to get that person either on the phone if they're in another location, or get that person in front of you to have a conversation, or give you the phone number of how to reach them. That should be an instantaneous response. If it is not, then ask more questions.
Yeah. Well, you would think that by now, even smaller providers would be putting out information, almost like marketing, talking about what they're doing to protect the patient data. Because it is something that is usually top of mind to people, but it's usually top of mind when an incident happens instead of beforehand. But I mean, just if it were me in my business, I would be doing all kinds of stuff, putting it out there going, this is how we protect your data. And this is, don't come and tell me after a breach, we take privacy seriously. Bullcrap. Exactly. You don't take it seriously. You didn't say anything about what you were doing until there was an incident.
Well, that's why one of the, we have a long list of services that we do to help entities build and manage privacy and security. That's what we do. For those of you who do not know
yeah, really.
what we do, We help you build and manage privacy and security programs. So we have a service where we publish an 800 number, and we don't charge a ton of money for it. What we do is we serve as the middleman, so that people, whether it's your staff or your patients or clients or whatever, can call this 800 number and make a complaint or file a concern. And then we talk to the individual, and then we talk to you and we advise you on it. Now, granted, if we tell you, look, this is what's going on, and this person doesn't want you to know who they are, and we're just the middleman. But sometimes it turns into a whole big consulting gig because there's a problem, and then I have to charge you for it. But basically, they put these signs everywhere that says, we take privacy and security seriously. If you think there's a problem, call this number.
Mm-hmm.
And we take it seriously when those things come in.
Right. I mean, it has to be that way. It has to be something that is very proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah. Well, those few times that we get an alert that somebody's left a message on that 800 number, and it's Krista's job to review it, and then it's somebody just breathing hard. Those.
Okay, I'll quit. I'm sorry.
But it's that kind of stuff. You're going to need to get people to see this because people are paying attention.
Yeah.
And, we're at that stage where everybody's just kind of thrown up their hands and said, I give up. I can't protect my stuff. But what comes next is anger. They're going to be like, I'm demanding that you do more, because other people are going to be doing more because it will set you apart.
Yeah. Well,
show me the money.
I mean, more needs to be done. And I know you see it, and it has to frustrate you like it frustrates me when you walk in somewhere and they're not doing anything, or even worse yet, they think they're doing something, and then they tell you what they're doing, and you're like, putting up posters once a year or having a 30-minute training session once a year is not compliance. Sorry. Mm-hmm. And then, usually it's, well, that's the best I can do. No, it is not the best you can do. And there's so much free information out there and so many free resources, and they keep putting more and more free stuff out there, and people still have excuses. It drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, oh, well, we don't have the money. We don't have this. We don't have, and all you're doing is don't having your stuff into a problem.
Yeah.
You're just, it's really, I don't personally like having to do all this crap for my business, but I do it because it's important.
Mm-hmm.
It keeps me from buying new toys sometimes because I have to buy security stuff.
Yep.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother thing. I can't afford to do it, because I got to take 4 vacations a year to the Caymans or whatever.
Okay.
Oh, whatever. Okay. Don't get me in a rant. I got to get out this thing.
Yeah, there you go. Here he goes. Hit it, David.
I ain't lying. It's so aggravating. I mean, I had a prospect one time that had a old software program that was written years ago, and nothing in it was secured, and it was fairly easy to get through its, a little bit of security it did have.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm like, look, there's some things you need to do to protect this. Well, we don't have the funds for that. I mean, not even ask, what does that look like? How much is that going to cost? It could have been $15 for all they knew. But
they didn't even ask. Yeah, that's always the thing. If you don't even ask how much it costs before you say you can't afford it, yeah.
I know. I just stood up. I was like, look, you're not serious about protecting this data. We're done. I'm not going to waste my time, because at some point you'll be in the news, and at some point you'll have somebody out here that's going to tell you the same thing I'm telling you, and it's going to cost you a lot more money. Anyway.
It's not worth it for businesses that do take it seriously to deal with businesses who don't.
No.
Especially if it's in their supply chain or if it's in, their customer base. Either way. It's just not good.
Right. And in IT, we're part of the nation's critical infrastructure. I cannot put myself in a position of having a lax stance internally or externally through clients.
Yeah. There's plenty of IT providers that we've been talking to, and they're having people sign paperwork that says, we've told you to do this, and you are saying you will not.
Yep.
You have to.
You can either get on the boat or you can drown. Either way.
All righty then.
All right. That is today's podcast. Now I got to go somewhere and find some way to calm down. Please remember to follow us and share us out on your favorite social media site. Rate us on our podcasting app. We need your help to spread the word. And always remember to send in your questions and ideas. Donna will read them and respond to them. So remember, for Donna and myself, that HIPAA is not about compliance. It's about patient care.
You've been listening to the Help Me with HIPAA podcast, hosted by Donna Grindle and David Sims. The show created to help you with HIPAA. For more information or to ask us a question, visit our website at helpmewithhipaa.com. Neither Donna Grindle or David Sims are attorneys, and they do not offer binding legal advice concerning regulatory compliance. The information in this podcast should not be relied upon or construed as legal advice in any way. Consult your attorney for legal advice concerning compliance with HIPAA regulations.